Hello, my name is Michael Campbell and I'm the Executive Director of Westwards, Western Sydney's literature development organisation. And it is my very great pleasure to welcome you to the announcement of the Blake Poetry Prize 2020. Whilst I am with you, wherever you may be, I'm coming from Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre near Liverpool in Western Sydney. So I would first like to acknowledge the traditional custodians on the land on which I am standing and we are virtually meeting, and their ancestors, past and present, the Cabral clan of the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was accessed by peoples of the Darawal and Darug Nations. I would now like to introduce Mayor of the City of Liverpool, Councillor Wendy Waller, to start the proceedings.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet and their ancestors past and present, the Cabral clan of the Darug Nation. I also acknowledge that this land was accessed by the peoples of the Darawal and Darug Nations. We can't meet in person right now, but I am so glad we can meet in a virtual way to announce the winner of the Blake Poetry Prize 2020. Since 2017, Liverpool City Council has presented the prize as a biennial event in partnership with Westwards and the team at Council's world-class Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre. The $5,000 Blake Poetry Prize is named after the world-famous 18th century artist and poet William Blake, and the prize has been engaging artists nationally and internationally since 1951. I'm delighted to tell you the Poetry Prize attracted a record-breaking number of entries this year, with more than 480 received. I'd like to thank Westwards for coordinating the entries and judging the process. I also would like to thank the team at Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre for their work in managing the prize. Thanks also to the judges, playwright and poet Julie Jansen, Charles Sturt, University lecturer Lachlan Brown, and 2017 Blake Poetry Prize winner Julie Watts. Casula Powerhouse also manages the Blake Art Prize. I'm delighted to tell you that the entries for the Blake Art Prize have been extended until the 12th of October this year. We look forward to bringing you more information about the Blake Art Prize Awards and exhibition at a later date. I'll now hand back to Michael. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. The Blake Prize is one of Australia's longest standing and most prestigious prizes. The Poetry Prize challenges poets to explore the spiritual and religious in a new work of 100 lines or less. It continues to engage contemporary poets, both national and international, in conversations concerning faith, spirituality, religion, and/or belief. This year, the prize attracted over 480 entries from across Australia and internationally from countries including the Philippines, the Netherlands, China, and the Republic of Congo. Thank you to all the poets who submitted their work for consideration. The poems reflect the cultural diversity of Australia's poets, and I would like to add my thanks to the judges. Julie Jansen, a playwright, novelist and award-winning poet. She is a Burra-Barongal woman of the Darug Nation, co-recipient of the Udjuru Nunakal Poetry Prize 2016, winner of the Judith Wright Poetry Prize 2019. Lachlan Brown, senior lecturer in English at Charles Sturt University, Wagga Wagga. He is the author of Limited Cities 2012 and Lunar Inheritance 2017, both published by Giramondo. And Julie Watts, a Western Australian writer who won the Blake Poetry Prize in 2017 and the Dorothy Hewitt Award for Unpublished Manuscript in 2018. Her second poetry collection, Legacy, was published by University of WA Press in 2018. They have all expressed their congratulations and thanks to all those who entered. In their words, the Blake is an important prize. It focuses on spirituality, recognises and gives space to this aspect of our humanness, especially in an increasingly secular world where the understanding of spirituality is broadening and dystopian feeling deepening. It is even more important in the aftermath of calamity, the terrible fires of the summer of 2019-2020, and in this time of pandemic, to acknowledge our spiritual nature. It is in this that resilience, hope, and transformation reside. The range of the subject matter of these poems was vast, from works that mourned our burnt country with throbbing sadness, and poems that celebrated passion and love and family and the joy of living. There were so many strong poems representing such a diverse range of spiritual positions and experiences that it was extremely difficult to choose a long list, let alone narrowing the things down to a short list, a highly commended and a winner. The Blake Prize shortlist, along with all the entries, should alert us to the vibrant ways that spirituality is folded into poetic expression and the strength and necessity of our cultural expression. The judges narrowed down the entries to a short list of 8 poems. You are about to see and hear the 8 poets reading their works. You can read these poems on the Westwards and the Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre websites. There are the full judges' comments for each poem and information about the poets. So, to the poems. In alphabetical order. History of Sadness by Louise Carter. Louise is a Sydney-based poet. Her work has appeared in Best Australian Poems 2012 and 2015 in various journals. She's a member of the Writing and Society Research Centre at Western Sydney University. The judges said, "This timely poem has smoke-choked assonance. It is domestic and feminine and the everyday. It burns with the resonances of the rising spirit and of our shared grief in 2020. A poem of exhaustion, of trauma upon trauma, communal and personal."
History of Sadness. The window frames a pink dusk, dot matrix through the fly screen. Miraculous is a bit much, but it's been nearly a season without sky. Smoke-choked for so long, I'm a child noticing God for the first time. Bat silhouettes pass overhead in wobbly trajectories. I call Stephen from his scrubbing to watch the swirling silver and lilac curlicules of cloud, a magic trick or prophecy. Our eyes are still wet. He's intent on tricking the bats, clapping to send them off course. The heady stench of jasmine is aggressively feminine. Petals stream. I'm not clucky so much as I am tired of grief. Each month, the history of sadness congregates inside me, virulent. Ants swarm toilet paper in tissue boxes. I reach for a Kleenex and smear myself with peppery energy. Jesus. The dishwasher clicks and shushes. I could pray, but I'm not sure what to ask for. They're seeking fig trees and sex. In a cafe, I asked a magic 8-ball if everything would be okay, and it replied, yes. There's an old cockatoo that's been coming around, skeleton grey and mangy. The other birds squawk it away. Maybe it was a cruel person in another life. This is how I justify my actions when I spray mosquitoes and wasps. But don't bad people start as children who've been traumatised? I wanted to end the cycle. Grief is an addict, pleading. You'll do anything. I wasn't arguing with Stephen. I saw his side and agreed with it. There's an inner misalignment, like a car tyre that veers away from the highway. Hot nights dreaming of still alive cats and ballet exams. Sweat, the body crying. Struggling up staircases on torpid days. Unconquerable laundry hampers. Then change. Cool air, relief, Rain. While sorting underpants, I get a response of sorts. Pay attention to whatever isn't pain. The room expands with subdued brightness.
On Finding Charlotte in the Anthropological Record by Judith Crispin. The judges said of this Indigenous prose poem, it reflects upon the complex issue of identity and finding ancestors. It is a poem about meeting across boundaries of space and time, weighted with the erasure of identity and songlines, of legacy of broken families, racism and discovery. Judith Nangala Crispin is a poet and visual artist of Bpangerang descent, currently poetry editor of the Canberra Times. Judith has 2 published collections of poems, the Myrrh-Bearers 2015 and the Lumen Seed 2017.
On Finding Charlotte in the Anthropological Record. We meet on the surface of a photograph, as a fish and bird might meet in a lake, at a point of sky and the water's plain. Charlotte, in a book called The Aborigines of Northern Victoria, sits jade black on earth, wind disarranging her hair. Trees obscured by falls of campfire ash, her nudity is covered by a blanket. I don't know if her breasts are hanging, if her thighs bear designs or marks. A needlework of scars crosses her chest, repeated dots like patterns on a goanna's back, like rain spat by goannas into dirt. Soon constellations will appear over branches on this night of 90 years ago, this never again night, and she asks me, where did you go, girl, with your made-up history, your ever whiter babies? This is what remains, a record of relatedness, scars to hold the memory of someone precious after they've died. We begin by cutting skin, rub wounds with gum and ash, black ants to cauterize the flesh. I remember them telling me, don't worry, this blackness fades with each generation. Charlotte is a map of a country stained by massacres, Skull Creek, Poison Well, Black Gin's Leap. A geography of skin and land, maps for the returning, for those who speak only a murderer's tongue, whose songlines are erased, who consulted departments of births, deaths and marriages, who stood beside rented Toyotas clutching photographs in 100 remote communities asking strangers, do you know my family? Can you tell me who I am? This moment, an old light is crossing the boundaries of emulsion, and I say to her, Charlotte, grandmother of my grandfather, I am Judith, and these are my scars.
X Plus by Dave Drayton. Dave Drayton was an amateur banjo player, founding member of the Atherton Academy and winner of the 24 Blake Poetry Prize. The judges commented of X Plus, this elaborate and intelligently crafted poem oscillates between scherzo and seriousness. Every line is an anagram of the first, a quote from the X-Files television program. The poem revels in its status as an example of the kind of feverish monologue that a character like Special Agent Fox Mulder might deliver. As with many poems, how the words appear on the page also contributes to the meaning of the poem and its intent. Nowhere is it more important, as in this poem.
X plus. The truth is out there. I want to believe. I want to believe the truth is out there. To be alive here with the rotten tutu is to be alive now. Tut. I authorize the truth within the truth. Retelevise a tube. Oh, to be or not to. To. Type. Ethereal view. This white hue. Ventilate. Reboot. Utter this. The truth is to want. Out there I believe in what there is to believe. Utter hut to the house, a libretti woven to thee. There is where a bevel to intuit thee to truth. To a true wit, Q10 hovel bit T is telephone hub, IT here TV router. With it is the alien review. To tribute to Q, this is where a bevel to intuit thee to truth is. A 13th hurt, wet out. To believe is to believe. I want the truth out there to be their elusive truth. Neat, white, too white, an elusive truth, the better I to tether to our habitué. 11th twit is here, out of bed. Outshine twilight TV there. Neat hour, be the viewer. Title tout this to the without. A trust neither believe, a trust I won't believe. Oh, I teeth truth. Too vile, breathe, tenuities few truth. Belie duty, vast hurt he there. 1, 2, 3. Enter hate without trust. Believe in a hero, believe two teeth tut truth. Is our truth a tenet? Obit, with levy. This isolation, TV hue, better tweet their isolation. Tweet hurt, by TV hue, their television white out. Berate the truth, be the viewer tutor, hint out. Elate this 13th loudish viewer. Eat tube to weather the TV hour. Oubliette net, it is, the truth is out there, I want to believe.
Sweeter Than Honey by Heather Elliard. The judges said of this poem that it is a mad, jubilant song of praise to life in an era of sadness. It celebrates the Middle East and the confluence of religions, joyful images of licking honey from rock. Heather is a hybrid artist-poet. She says of her practice that more and more words are my paint. My installations cover the walls with poems. It isn't about paint anymore. She has held 30 solo exhibitions and has been represented in more than 50 group shows, including in Paris and Beijing. Her work is in private collections here and abroad, and in public collections, including the National Gallery of Australia and Commonwealth Parliament House collection.
The title of this poem is Sweeter Than Honey. Oh, the sticky song of honey. Oh, the dripping hallelujah rock, the hallelujah rock. And the dappled dark taste and the aftertaste darker. But sweeter than honey are your words to my taste. Bring me vocabularies of honey from the highest place and pray with me legato amore. Once I asked for roses in heat that covered whole walls. Now I ask for a choir of words at the dawn of honey, singing the infinite to ground. Long after the pillars of fire and smoke, long after the burning bush and the almond rod, long after salt and clay and rumors of dust, after kings and prophets conceded defeat, after the second coming rubbed against stone and became stone, after roses turned into words and the angels bled in dreams, the desert bloomed again, tiny blades of green against the sky, in sharp and holy solitude. And the wind was still, and new angels came down and said, grow, grow, and nothing interrupted the sweetness of green. The walls fell down, and birds eloped in the sky. Jerusalem so stacked with poems day and night, the Shekhinah covered in dew, dancing with pomegranates and figs. The muezzin calling like birds, the vibrating song of lutes and stars. The messiahs lurking behind rocks with wine and intricate laws. And in the wadi, gems and bones waiting like history for thieves. Hunting for hidden words and amethyst among the orange peels. Oh, the Jewish roots, Oh, the promises and boundaries. Oh, the love and loss. O God among gods. Oh, the homesick Hallelujah Rock.
Don't Call Us Dirty by Lou Garcia Dolnick. The judges said, "This poem is ambitious and yet confessionally dense. Its mixture of registers is fresh and startling as it switches between various subjectivities and viewing positions, running its fingers along the seam between the sacred and the profane." Lou is a mixed-race Philippine ex-writer and editor. They are a poetry editor for VoiceWorks and alumnus of the Banff Centre's Emerging Writers Intensive, have held tenure as editor-in-chief of Hermes Journal and prose team leader of the Sydney Arts Students Society creative journal ANA. They are a 2020 Wheeler Centre Hot Desk Fellow.
My name is Lou Garcia Dolnick, and I'm joining you from unceded Gadigal land to read my poem, Don't Call Us Dirty. The speaker loves their mother from a distance. Although anxious at the prospect of having no one to dedicate this poem to, misdiagnoses several of her cohabiting morbidities and tries to solve everything with lesbianism. Circle the same green city where everything is imbued with the scent of decay, everybody dating each other, crying about time, unable to make sense of emotional liberalism. Though this doesn't stop lovers from telling her, "You're too much, you hurt me, but I got over it." That's white adjacent queerness, she shrugs, shotgun gay wedding through life, the universe, everything, her racial constitution in some stranger's mouth, a precursor to Netflix and fucking. She attracts detritus with her longing for something other than the Armageddon of malignant having feelings. Spends eons distilling an essential truth from the platitudes of terminal desire, i.e. you're unlovable, too heavy, never as new as the other girl. And those were the halcyon days of thieving, living in anyone else's ugly histories, as in baby, I love you, I can't do this tonight, I was thinking about her so much I couldn't get wet. Following her cartographic impulse maps human relations with generous humour, tells every butch, you can be my father, every femme, I can be your mother, anyone in between, we could be together forever. Genuflecting to the subject of her idolatry and throwing that all away with, you don't care about me enough. Though if she ever made light of nights wasted in allyship with ugly haircuts, it wasn't difficult to forget that her own genealogy was a hierarchical one. Its holy triptych, the sun, a marred childhood, the state, beating down on bodies looking to eschew the cargo of an oath to feeling unfree. Tells lovers, do not save me. Self-sufficiency, a drug running through the veins of chronic loneliness. Holding tight to the mantle of her blamelessness, anyone's arms, corrugated bars through which the sky cast shadows over the origins of her affliction. In worship of the catastrophe of love on lockdown, lawlessly this desire to be dirtied where living ran the body unclean, commands daily a plea to God in the machination of every fresh heartbreak. I permit myself to pray at this temple. I permit myself to take refuge in it.
Parental Guidance by Julie Manning. The judges said of this poem that it is an elegy for lost parents, a narrative of remembered family life, a poem on the disconnection of grief and the grappling with its integration. Julie Manning is a poet, visual artist and lawyer. Her poems have appeared in various poetry journals and anthologies and has been listed for numerous highly respected prizes.
Parental Guidance. Setting my star to a mountain at Christmas, on an occasion my father allowed us to drink. His alcohol leave past soporific, his blokish colleagues 3 or 4 sheets to the wind, hauling their eskies and unwelcome children up our steps, stubbing their Rothmans in ashtrays like hubcaps, my mother's shiny relics from magazines. Through a screen door, beer talk droned over the lawn as kids ran past our crabapple, littered with leaves where green pods had burned. We stood under the sprinkler, posing one-legged, like concrete flamingos. Soon I would be called for my piano rendition and to read someone's card pressed into my hand, like sentimental contraband. No one cared for carols played from sheet music, with lyrebirds on the cover, and anyway, I was absent, playing songs from the road that led out of town in my head. Raucous drinking and work talk was a signal to walk with swallows in late afternoon, skirting a forest past a farmhouse like the band's Big Pink, where a fence turned paddocks to graves and a grazing ewe on a busted headstone picked grass from cracks in a young soldier's inscription. Carting a fragment home to my father. Religions cause more wars than anything else. At my mother's funeral, there were hymns and hired harp music. My sister backhanded me Valium as I greeted strangers intent on respect. Like the attendants of crows we disturbed on the way in, I wanted to wander the margins, to walk out back through ranunculus and scratch blue ice off the burial blooms. We were placed in cinder block like an outlying scar, and spring uncoiled in shoots as we stood in a sepia group stark on a hill, dressed in black and moth-eaten twill. I performed a speech as a missive of thanks, dedicating wild geese and a family of things. My mother just memory waving from a machine, a cornucopia of hairstyles and places, a photograph album of stills and stares. Or under palms on a West Sydney lawn, my mother would joke, the doves shaped like finials were praying to be spared, the killing heat God allowed. A trinity of steeples over the town, as blooms from the day ungloved and fell. I stayed in a room, the air heavy with leftover wreaths, as twilight cast pink cloud lines, and a troop of roos were dark late shadows. All I could hear was someone telling me, at least she hadn't died on my birthday. There were no almond blossoms for my father, no grinding for him already gone to a line of light years before, when the staff latched a door quietly, and I thought of the fragment I'd carried home for him, his love of Ecclesiastes and ragged pronouncements. The church got rich on its ill-gotten gains. I still don't know how to believe. It's still not dark yet, as Dylan sings. In the hallway leaving, I think of the nurse who eased in late with no name badge or directions. Young, in shadow, strangely calm, she arranged my mother's pillow from a chair, steered Mum along her lifelong dream of walking the Camino, through stands of oak and eucalypt, high into the palliative air, then left, as they say, without a word.
The Rose Noir poem number 5, The Girl in the Souk by Michael Moon. The judges noted it as a homage to Morocco's beautiful and perfumed imagery and lyrical beauty. Echoes of Ramadan and sandalwood. It is romantic with a touch of the untamable. Michael lives in amongst the Darlington art community in Studio Quaraluna in Western Australia, which is inspired from a dream he had when he was 12. Michael describes it as an evolving, fragrant dreamscape, a new sandalwood oasis with a 100-acre maze, 10 kilometres of walk passages, inland seas and performance stages. Unfortunately, due to health concerns, Michael was unable to read his poem, so I would urge you to head to the Westwards or the Casula Powerhouse Art Centre website to read it. Waterlines to a Kingfisher by Peter Ram. The judges said, this lyric poem begins grounded by metaphor. The morning river after rain is a mud river. It then takes flight like the Kingfisher itself, its long lines sweeping across the page, dipping in and out of metaphor and stunning image. It is an expansive poem with many striking lines and an epic tone. Peter Ram is a poet from Robertson in New South Wales. As a self-described emerging poet, Peter won the Red Room Company's 2017 and 2019 Poetry Object competitions and was highly commended in the Henry Lawson Memorial and Literary Society competition.
Waterlines to a Kingfisher. Time wears us down and away, like water on glass, like footfalls on marble stairs, step by step until we are edgeless and smoothed out. Fright. The morning river after rain is a mud mirror. and in its stained glass surface a latticework of river oak shadows float under the ribbed canoe. A sage meniscus rises to the gunwale, and out beyond the oars a sunken forest of scribbly gum stretches like God's infant attempt at drawing straight lines. Naked with their chests out, the gums know everything will pass through. Water returns to water, dust will find its grave. Out of the flow a sacred kingfisher settles on a dead branch. His sapphire waistcoat is a sunbeam sermon to the bass below and anyone who cares to listen. Above the canopy, a lone eagle weaves a cloud as if the sky were a great loom and her work had just begun. In Zarathustra's teaching, water is the mother of life, and as a runnel weeps down the wood, I wonder if the flecks will be enough for purity, or whether noon has already passed. The kingfisher dives, its wings like arrow fletchers homing on the minnows amid the reeds. On his return, his feathers, a polychrome frieze more vivid than the palace of Darius at Susa. This is the way of all things. The halcyon air barely at a murmur, the water unflinching in its firmness. It is said the kingfisher was the first to dream of land after the great flood, leaving the ark early, its plumage stained by the pigments God left as he painted the earth again. Here, in the ripples off the bow, the world exists in watercolour, the Curian sky ensnarled by the reflections of grey gums and cross-hatched sandstone of ridge lines. The light, an echo a million years in the making. Today, life seems a refraction, the riverbed in an upward bend, the closeness of a moment only half grasped. In the slow shudder of my eye, the kingfisher becomes a sapphire trail light as thoughts collapse in a blur. In the eddies, bloodwood leaves are a deluge offering from the forest, silent like the drowned voices of the wind. And this memory, hanging in a glass box, loses its lustre as the river pulls away. A bare-nosed wombat buries itself above the bank, digging a failed waterline liturgy. Water will wear its way to the bedrock, and in the shallows moss makes its ramshackled house. Yellow rock orchids flower over the boulders along Nelson's Creek. Like the flaming tongues of Pentecost, they speak in signs and know, if righteousness comes for the sight of the kingfisher, it flies just as quick.
Thank you to all of these poets. And now, I would like to invite Mayor Waller to announce the winner and the highly commended poem.
Thanks, Michael. It's now my great privilege to announce the winner and the highly commended awards in the Blake Poetry Prize 2020. The highly commended award goes to The History of Sadness by Louise Carter. Congratulations, Louise. And now the winner is On Finding Charlotte in an Anthropological Record by Judith Crispin. Congratulations, Judith.
Congratulations. Thank you to all the poets who submitted their work. It was a privilege to spend time with you and your poems. I am so heartened by the vibrancy of my fellow artists, and in particular our writers who manifest the soul of our nation in words. Your contribution is invaluable, especially at this time. Thank you to the Blake Society, Mayor Waller and Liverpool City Council, and everyone at Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre for their support and championing of poetry, and for inviting Westwards to contribute to bringing you this celebration. You can read all these poems, read the full judges' comments for each poem, and find out more information about the poets on the Westwards website, westwards.com.au, and the Casula Powerhouse Arts Centre website, casulapowerhouse.com/get involved with a hyphen between the get and the involved /prizes. See you in 2 years, hopefully in person.